This one here. Now, I like the kind of low-key nature of this shot already as it is. As far as like setting looks, that is best done early on, right? With the DP and the director. A lot of my existing clients now, we've done, gosh, 2, 3, 4 pictures together now at this point. So that shorthand is already established, and we hit the ground running from day one. Often we've been out to dinner and been discussing upcoming projects, and we start thinking about it long before we're actually in the color bay. One thing that I like to do personally when working with the director or cinematographer is get the script early and start kind of building a look Bible, a lot of reference images, a lot of references to potential existing work that's already been done, so that we are all on the same page and know what we're executing when we do finally get into the color bay. For starting out colorists is less is more, and really hone that what one of my friends calls one ball grading. You essentially can derive basically any feel and tone from just those printer lights and that one ball, and with base light with a base grade that you can using all those tricks and trying to get there through other means. Start exploring with printer lights, few in one direction, few in the other, and see what kind of feeling it gives you. We've been coloring this way for nearly 2 decades now in this digital space, and the more bells and whistles we tend to get in these machines, the less I tend to use. It's really the simplest grade to get you to the effect that you're desiring is always the best one, versus something that has 17 layers and 14 keys and a bunch of shapes over it. If you can get there in 2 layers, well, that's a better grade. You try to use the least amount of steps to get to the goal that you want. It's a lot easier to get 2 shots to match using printer lights than it would be using every single tool at your disposal and then trying to reinvent the wheel again on the next shot and trying to make it match. So like I said, keep that linearity consistent through the shots, and that's going to set you up for success. When you start to do your creative grading, you want to take a step back and say, where are we in the story? Are we in the character development stage? Are we, at the climax? Where are we time-wise? And then from that point, you also want to say, where are we in the tone and feeling? Once you have those 2 questions kind of answered, then you can start to decide how creatively you want to push that look. There's an infinite number of looks, and although we've done a ton of them, there's still a huge amount that have not been explored yet. Often when you start to go in a direction for any given feel, right, you tend to be slightly timid because it's easy to just make a small correction feel like it's a big one when you're focused on color. I would say one recommendation is really go for it, because you never want to make it feel like a mistake. If you are trying to do something, don't go halfway, because then it will seem like a mistake. If you're going for a look and you want it yellow-green, make it yellow-green, because if you just make it slightly yellow-green, it's just going to seem like the white point's off a little bit. So if you're going to do something that is a look, really go for it. It's an editorial process, right? You're always either adding something or taking away. If you keep adding, eventually your image just looks garish. So if you're gonna add saturation, take away contrast. For example here, so we'll start to add contrast, right? Higher contrast tends to feel more gritty, also feels sharper because of the perceived local contrast. And if we take away saturation, it starts to look very cool and kind of stylistic. You want to just make the right look that is in service of the story. Now, often, it could be just blacks and whites, a very neutral, pretty photographic image. But depending on the situation, depending on the tone and what the action is, then you might want to go for a more aggressive look. So let's go the other way. So if we remove contrast, make it very flat, but then add sat, that can also be kind of a cool look. It's getting kind of Instagrammy, but you get what I'm saying. I don't experiment so much. Often the experimentation happens while you're working on the job that you're not working. You might have had a happy accident on something and said, oh gosh, that's a cool look. Not for this show. I'm going to store that. Now, that's not to say that it's so rigid that you can't try things out differently. Baselight has some advanced tools, especially the spatial ones now, that I'm starting to not be able to live without. You can do the same thing in Resolve. It'll just take, 10 nodes, and we will just increase the local contrast in the medium-high range. And now we have a frequency separation, slightly sharper, slightly poppier. Don't actually like using sharpening operators because you tend to get ringing with a convolution filter. So as it came in, and where we're going. There's a lot of advantages to each platform and a lot of strengths and weaknesses. So it's really just use the right tool for the right job. As long as you're making pretty pictures, there's no right answer. If you take away warmth in the shadows, then we should add it to the highlights. And again, another cool look. Always trying to emphasize what is important in the frame and then take away what is not important. You know, you could take 15, 20 minutes to hash out a few variations. And what you do is it's like a carving at that point. You take your block of wood and you say, okay, you start whittling it down. Here's 9 different looks. All right, well, we don't like those 9. We like the one in the middle the best, and then you'll show 3 variations on that one in the middle. And then from those variations, you'll say, okay, well, it's down to these 2. And then maybe you split the difference, and that's where you end up with that final look. It's not so much experimentation as honing and refining and getting to that point that is has the best feeling. As far as shapes are concerned, I tend to use very soft, loose shapes, again, for trying to almost make it feel like as if there was a soft light there, or the subtraction of a soft light. Now, often, I've been lucky enough to work with some amazing DPs, and they're typically shooting what they want, so it's just really enhancing what's already there. When you do need to use some windows to potentially knock down some light that would have been a long flag on set, that's a pretty quick one that is very soft and doesn't require heavy-duty tracking. I try to lean to those first. I usually don't like getting extremely precise with shapes, like almost like a roto, because the margin for error dramatically increases. You're going to get a lot of QC kickbacks because it's just going to over time it'll boil, or you'll catch the matte slipping or something like that. Each project kind of sets its own rules, and as long as you stay within those rules, then there's no wrong answer. You can really make a picture look and feel however best serves the story, and you're never going to be out of bounds. And you really got to feel it with your gut, and you'll know when it's right. If you're watching back a scene and it gives you goosies, you nailed it.